Yeah, no. Please try to keep the tables together so I do not have the Red Seas part of my computer record the floor. Um, and my shoes, my lovely shoes, mud on them. I'm not wearing boots today. Boots are too hot for the summer. I would die.
Because I remember you saying you always wear boots.
I do.
And I never have seen you not wear boots.
99.9% of the time I wear boots, even when it's too hot, and then sometimes it's too hot even for me to suffer through it.
Yeah, that's usually me with hoodies. I usually wear hoodies all the time, but and I'm like, it's too hot.
It's gotten to the point where it's like suffering through it is not worth it. So, anyway, today we're going to be talking about world building once again. However, this time we're specifically talking about fantasy world building with creating fun, magical new fantasy food. Food! Because food is fantastic, right? And I'm sorry, but who wants their fantasy world to be like, everything's magical except we still have pigs? Why? Like sometimes it makes sense if you're in like a world like Harry Potter where you're kind of in the modern world as well. But if you've made an entirely new continent, make entirely new animals. Make entirely new exactly fantasy bacon, heck if you want to. Make different cultures, make different things. This is the classic science fiction idea of blue milk from Tatooine. Like, come on, at least make it a different color. Yes, get creative if you can. So, funnily enough, the first thing we're actually going to talk about when it comes to food is how people eat. Because, as you may notice with our own lovely, glorious planet, you have some places that eat with their hands. You have some places that eat with a banana leaf. You have some places that eat with chopsticks. You have some places that eat with spoons. You have some places that eat with spoons and forks. You have some people that eat with an assortment of spoons and forks because they're too fancy and don't need just one fork, apparently. And you have the spork! Yes, there's so many different ways that you can consume food. So, think about in your world, is there a new fun way of consuming food that you wouldn't have thought of with your fantasy universe? Something crazy. That honestly is a way. I can't argue with that. That would be a very unique
All they
world.
have to do is absorb nutrients through their skin.
I feel like that would also be a terrible idea though too, because then if like a human touched them with their gross and muddy hand, it would be like, ooh, what did you feed me? That's fair. I would say most frogs actually absorb a lot of water through their skin, but not necessarily nutrients. So similar. That's true. And bees breathe through their skin. Fish breathe. Yes. Lots of animals are very, very weird. But that's the beauty of it. You can make new cool fantasy races that eat in different ways. You can make new cool fantasy dishes that need to be eaten in a certain way. There are some dishes around the world that take so much preparation that literally there's one dish. Oh man, I will remember it eventually. It will come to me. But anyway, point is it's a type of jelly. However, when you start with the actual original plant, it is poison. You have to boil it and jelly it 5 times before it's actually not poison. Yeah. I can't remember what it's called, but yes, that. You know what I'm thinking. But yeah, point is, everyone thinks it's delicious, but how on earth did they get from this is poison to if we jelly it and boil it exactly 5 times, it's delicious? Like, how many people died to discover that? But my point is, you can do all sorts of crazy things with your food and with how they eat it and how they prepare it. And sometimes it's even got certain societal cultures. I know that there are other cultures. I can't remember if it's the left hand or the right hand, but specifically in this culture, it's considered, I believe it's the left hand, is considered dirty and unclean. And so even if you just washed your hands and they're completely clean, you're supposed to only eat with your right hand. And if you eat with your left hand, people will look at you like, because it's considered unclean and unsafe. It's mainly due to the fact that a lot of the things they do with their left hand are different things like gutting pigs, using the restroom, different things like that. And so even if you wash your hand, people just see it as like gross. Even though here, if you're left, exactly, it's eternally dirty. Even if you wash it a million times, it's eternally dirty in their culture. And so you could even do that where you have one of your characters like start eating something and they start eating with their hands and someone is like, oh, you don't eat with your feet? And they're like, what? So you could have all sorts of different cultures. You could have all sorts of different cultures. Or you could have something crazy like you can only eat this specific food if it's been pooped out of a cat. Believe it or not, there actually is a type of coffee that supposedly tastes better if it's pooped by a certain type of cat. Believe it or not.
That's why I don't drink coffee.
But the point is that food is so wild and weird. You can get really wild and weird with it in your culture too. And don't let anyone say that's too weird or too this or too that, because just point to one example on Earth and they will be like, changed my mind. You're not so weird. Exactly. So feel free to get wild, get creative, or even just do as simple as like the Tatooine blue milk theory. They have eggs, but green. You can do stuff like that. Or you can also have things where, like, for example, maybe chickens are literally one of the rarest things on the planet. So anyone who has eggs is literally royalty. Like, who knows? This is true. Or then you have ostrich eggs, which are just freaking massive. But anyway,
Giant chicken.
giant chicken. Worship the giant chicken.
All the animals, giant chicken.
And then you can also have all sorts of different ingredients as far as your foods go. You can come up with new plants. You can come up with new animals. You can also, like I said, just basically dye it a different color. Say bacon, but blue, because it comes from specifically blue pigs. Who knows? You can do whatever you'd like with your ingredients. And the craziest part, ingredients actually tend to be related to the time in your universe and the trade routes in your universe. So, for example, if your fantasy world is about in modern times, they'll probably have a lot of crazy cuisine. For example, fusion food. That's something that very much only happened because we know each other. If we were still in the medieval times where it's like, what is that far off land in these strange spices? You're not going to have fusion food because we don't even know what turmeric or any of those other fancy spices are yet. We're just staring at them going, hmm. But if you're in a more modernized exactly. If you're a modernized fantasy society though, you probably will have some fusion culture foods, some really interesting foods and things like that. However, you also might just barely be in the medieval times and be like, hey, I've never heard of this one spice or this one fruit. It's super exotic and strange, and I have to travel to get it.
Pineapple.
No, it's true. The first time someone had discovered a pineapple, they were like, "What the heck is this?" So honestly, it really can be cool and fun for your world building to have these crazy fun foods, especially if you are doing kind of a medieval era, because then you can have them go places and explore and have different cultures, different foods. You could even invent your own taste if you want to. If you're like, hey, I love sour foods so much, you could have a whole culture developed around only sour food. Like, you could do whatever you want with this. That's the beauty of fantasy. All right.
The sour
Last,
cow.
last thing that we're going to talk about is religion. Religion actually can affect how you eat food, as you guys all know. For example, the term kosher, belonging to Jewish tradition. Some of the religious things are just because of the fact that there are certain things that are unclean. For example, back then they said don't eat pork because, well, let's be frank, even in today's society, sometimes pork can kill you if you don't do it right. We do it a lot more safely now back then, but at the same time, that's part of the reason why they believed it, because they were like, hey, yo, God said don't eat things that can kill you, and pork can kill you. And they were like, that makes sense. So you can have some sort of religious things too. You could even have a whole religion where people only eat vegetables. I don't know. Whatever you'd like. Exactly. You can have all sorts of things where you could have someone who only eats carbs for their thing because they don't believe in eating meat and they believe that wheat is a sacred food or something like that. You could have different cultures like in India that where they believe cows are sacred and so they really don't eat beef unless you're like really crazy.
My friend lived in India, and after she came back after 1 year, she was like eating it.
She's like, what is beef? Oh my gosh. It's amazing. No, it's true, because in that culture, cows are considered completely and utterly sacred. So the idea of eating beef over there is absolutely insane. And so it's important to recall these kinds of things. If you're going to invent a religion, there will probably be some food rules. Almost every religion on the planet has at least a few food rules. Not exactly everyone, but that's why I said almost. So you could totally, if you have a religion you've invented in your fantasy world, go ahead and invent some food rules. They can just be basic food rules like don't eat poison, or they could be really crazy food rules like don't eat this specific herb because it makes you hallucinate, or something like that. Or maybe they say that, or maybe they encourage you, do eat this specific herb all the time because it makes you hallucinate. There are some religions like that too, where it's like, hey, being high as a kite is part of our religion. So you could also do that too.
Hallucinations are calls from the spirits.
There are lots of people who legitimately believe that. And so it's important that you, if you're creating your religion, keep in mind, what do they think is sacred? What do they think is not sacred? What do they believe in? Because that's going to change what they eat, what they do, sometimes even how they prepare their food. And these can be very, like I said, fun ways to introduce and embed your reader into your culture more and make it feel more real. Part of the issue with, and I forgot one more point. last thing I'm going to talk about. Sad, I forgot. The main syndrome that we're trying to avoid by teaching all of these world building lessons is called generic medieval Europe syndrome. It's basically where everyone invents a fantasy world that is just generic medieval Europe, but called something else.
Yay.
And a lot of people actually fall into this category where they're like Lord of the Rings, except with Lord of the Rings, they actually did have different kinds of food. They did have different kinds of cultures. And even though they did have humans, they also had orcs and elves and all these other cultures that ate different things. I still thought that was the funniest thing when they go to eat with the elves and the dwarves are like, where's the meat? These weirdos don't have any meat. And so, like, you can make different cultures and different foods. Tolkien even did that, and yet so people tend to forget that and just go back to the basic Europe, medieval, yay. And it's like if you're creating a whole new culture, there's gonna be different ways of eating, different types of foods, different animals that they do and don't eat, certain magical plants that maybe they ingest all the time, certain other magical plants that they're like, dude, if you eat that, you gonna die. And so it's important that you keep that in mind in order to differentiate yourself from the average just medieval fantasy Europe. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but there's a lot of just generic medieval fantasy Europe novels out there. And so if you want to make yourself stand out, do something extra crazy and magical, make sure that you are taking it to the next level, like we talked about last week with fashion. You can absolutely do the same thing with your cuisine and with your food. Make it so that it's so unique that when your readers open it, they go, man, I really wish I could have insert blank fantasy dish. You know, that's always the cool thing, right?
Like
And then
Avatar.
yeah, exactly. Like Avatar, there are all those different things where it's like, oh, sea prunes. Nobody can tell you what a sea prune is because it doesn't exist.
Like Jenny Messenger put like a ton of like recipes
Yes,
together in her kitchen and then put them into her book. So
and then put them in her book so that you could actually eat them. Yes, Avatar: The Last Airbender did the opposite, where they made a cookbook and posted, and then were like, I think this is what a sea prune would taste like.
My brother has.
Yes, yes.
I just watched the entire series, so I definitely know what you're talking about.
Exactly. And so there you can do all sorts of crazy things like that. And you can also base them in real cultures. A lot of the water tribe stuff is based in a lot of Eskimo type recipes. And whereas the Fire Nation is very much kind of like Indian culture, very, very spicy. Very, very spicy and very, very fragrant with lots of spices and things like that. Earthbenders are typically a little bit more, I would say, Asian, more classic, you know, tea and different things like that, dumplings and things like that.
Yeah, and
Yes.
What?
He could not survive without his tea.
Uncle Iroh is the best.
Uncle Iroh is the best. And then you have Avatar, and then you have the Airbenders, which no one actually really knows what their culture is like, aside from the custard pie is that what's the bucket throws on everyone's heads. But yes.
Oh, and the onion and banana juice.
This is true, and onion and banana juice. But those are the only two airbender recipes that exist. And you can also do things like that where you say, hey, these are these really cool cultures, but this culture has died out and therefore the recipes have gone with
I
them.
think all of them eat cabbage,
You're like, earthbenders have to only eat cabbage. Why else would they have a cabbage vendor in every city?
The cabbage is always there.
Are we sure they don't avoid eating cabbages and that's why he's always screaming about how bad his cabbage sales are? But anyway,
Well, forget it.
yes. Point being is that watching things like Avatar: The Last Airbender or reading things like Keeper of the Lost Cities, because she also does a great job of that, can have a great effect on looking at what they do with their food and how they slip it in too. Keeper of the Lost Cities and Avatar: The Last Airbender do it very subtly. They're not like, here is this dish, let's tell you how to make it. They're just doing things like with the sea prune stew, where Sokka and Katara are both like, oh my gosh, this is my favorite food. I can't believe it's so traditional. And here Aang is going like, this is so gross. And you can do that too. There are lots of things. For example, Durian. Durian is a type of fruit that literally smells like a corpse. I can tell you because I've smelled it. But it's also super, super sweet. But it has an aftertaste of gasoline. And for some reason, people eat it. Don't ask me why. My husband has a botany professor that literally just loves durian and is like, it's his favorite fruit. And I'm sitting here going, how? But that's my point. Everyone has different styles and different tastes. And even something that could taste gross to everyone else might be the favorite food of someone.
It's like one country where they like think that we're weird for like drinking root beer because it tastes like medicine for them.
Yes, because to them it tastes like medicine. And then I know there are some people who are like, oh, there's only grape flavor of cough drops. So a lot of people think grape tastes like medicine. And yet in Japan, they love grape anything. And so there's all sorts of crazy things. Um, so keep in mind that also different cultures will have different tastes. And you might have two people from two different cultures in your fantasy world, and one is like, I love spicy food, and the other person is like, I can't even have pepper because it's too spicy. You never know, really. All right, any questions about world building specifically with cuisine, food, eating habits, that kind of stuff? Okay, I figured this was going to be a short lesson, but um, as far as announcements goes, we just finished the summer contest, so that'll be exciting. And so that'll be great. Yes, that is correct. And then the next contest is going to be the scary story contest. I've already talked with them. This year it's going to be 1,500 word limit. Unfortunately, we couldn't go any higher than 1,500 because with a bunch of people entering, we literally had over like 250 entries last year. We're gonna die if we do any higher than 1,500. We're just gonna pass away. We'll get halfway through reading and we'll be like, "There's one day left, and I still have 300 entries." I'm just done. So 1,500 is kind of the max we can do in order to get through all the stories quickly, without just dying. So keep in mind, Scary Story Contest is available for everyone. Should be awesome, but it will only be 1,500 word limit. If you are having trouble with word limits, I can either re-give the lesson again, or you can go back to YouTube and check out my lesson on word limits and how to keep within really tight word counts, because I know word counts are hard. Word counts are evil, but we have to do them because otherwise people would die while reading a story because they're like, it's 6,000 words, perish. So, the other announcement that I have is August 16th. Please come to the library. All day we are going to be having an awesome fantasy science fiction themed convention.
Yes, I definitely wait. Do you have to sign up?
Yeah, you do not have to sign up. You just have to show up.
I will go.
The only thing you have to sign up for is if you want to participate in our Magic the Gathering tournament or our Star Wars Unlimited
I
tournament.
don't know how to play either of those.
Then you're good.
My brother knows how to play Magic, though.
But yes, if you have anyone you know who knows how to play either of those card games, please tell them to sign up. It'll be an awesome little tournament thing that we're going to be doing. Aside from that, we're going to be having writing lessons and art lessons as well. However, keep in mind, those are going to be first come, first serve. So once we reach the fire code limit, we are closing those doors. And I'm sorry, we are not letting you back in. We're going to be having writing lessons and art lessons. However, they're going to be first come, first serve. If you show up and the doors are closed, I'm sorry, there's too many people. So try to show up. We're also going to be giving out fun raffle prizes during those art and writing classes.
Too much stuff.
It's going to be awesome. Too many stuff. All the things explode with too many things. If you are one of the first people to arrive on time, you will be entered into those raffles for fun art and writing themed prizes. We have 4 classes. One art class that is to be determined. Then we have a class all for writing, all about. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. Then we have a writing class talking about burnout and writer's block and how to get through that. It should be really motivating and inspiring. Then we'll have a class on how to draw dragons, which is going to be pretty epic.
Oh, I used to draw dragons like all the time.
And then we're going to have a final writing class that's going to talk about how to find beta readers online and how to promote yourself on Instagram and work with other Instagrammers to help promote your book. And then then we're going to have a very, very short writing Q&A and art Q&A. And then we're going to have a cosplay and costume contest.
Oh,
So,
baby, I can do it. I have a Rengoku costume. I'm ready to break it out.
it will be exciting. And then beyond that, we will also have all these fantasy and sci-fi artists and vendors out in the park. We have a little bit of everything from crochet people to woodworking people. We even are going to have a few food trucks. It's going to be awesome. So please come. And the best part is that if you go through and talk to all the different vendors and get one ticket from at least half the vendors, you will then be entered into a raffle prize potentially to get something for free. So many awesome things. All the things. Just show up and be there all day.
Okay.
We'll be starting as soon as we open at 10, and then we'll be ending as soon as we close at 4.
Wait, what day is this?
August 16th. It is a Saturday.
Okay, I was like, hopefully that's not the day I start school.
No, it shouldn't be considering it's a Saturday. If they're starting school on Saturdays, like anime sweat drop of stress.
School on a Friday and ended on a Monday. My school just weird. Okay.
But anyway, so
I don't know why.
it should be a Saturday. August 16th, Saturday. It'll be all day. You can come whenever you want. However, obviously, if you want to go to certain writing classes or art classes, you're going to want to be there at a certain time. But aside from that, come whenever you want. Just enjoy the lovely atmosphere. Please come in costume, like I said, not only because we have a costume contest, but also because I will be in costume.
You
so
could
please
wear
join
that
me.
as like a Ren Fair.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
It's very nice.
Thank you. But anyway, so those are the announcements for now as far as writing and various fun stuff going on at the library goes. I'm going to turn off the video, and then you can ask any questions you want about other writing things. As of right now, I'm not sure if we're going to have a first chapter contest in November.
No,
We're
I love
hoping
those
to,
ones.
but we're not certain just because of the fact that we're looking at the budget right now. But fingers crossed, we will hopefully have our first chapter writing contest in November. Again, fingers crossed. Don't know if it'll happen, but fingers crossed. I think that's it. So I'm going to turn off the video.